What's going on, guys? My name's Tefty. Welcome to another episode of Destiny. Today, I wanted to talk about loadouts for Wrath of the Machine and also some subclasses and overall things that you should think about if you want to go into the raid, maybe somewhat blind and need just a little bit of advice on what type of loadouts to look for. So I actually went in with this loadout specifically. I was on a Warlock, not a Hunter. I had the Keystone, I had the Devil's Dawn, and Baron's Ambition. I'm pretty sure I had the Baron's Ambition, had a machine gun initially. And I definitely made some changes throughout the raid, but I will say that a high-impact scout rifle was doing some good ad control work, because in raids you get a ton of ads, and then you get times where you need a bunch of DPS. So you have to balance between how easily you can control ads and how much high damage output you can put out with that. So this loadout was a little too high on the ad control, essentially, after being in the raid for a bit. Like I said, the high impact scouts definitely was doing work. This particular role I have on the Keystone is Firefly, Outlaw, and explosive rounds. Explosive rounds sometimes gets rid of Firefly and Outlaw. Sometimes it triggers. You know, it's a little, it can be a little confusing. Nonetheless, it was doing work and it did a lot of area damage. So I was definitely happy with that in the beginning with the ad control. And then the Devil's Dawn, which I got from a strike chest. It always comes with these perks. And I had, obviously, Quick Draw, I had Firefly, Life Support, and I was using Accurized. I'm not sure what the best barrel is yet, but it has Disciplinarian. This weapon deals a bonus amount of damage to fallen enemies, and it's full of Fallen in the raid. So that was coming in pretty clutch. If you don't have Devil's Dawn, for DPS, Defiance of Yasmin might be the better choice because of the Stowaway perk, or the, Cocoon. Being able to have this automatically reload during boss fights when you're unloading with, say, Galahorn, which I'll show you guys in a second, might actually be the better option overall instead of a high-impact, slow-firing sniper rifle, unless you use Black Spindle. The only problem with Black Spindle is that you are missing out on the Galahorn. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So that's the trade-off you have, how much ad control versus how much DPS you can put out on a boss. Eventually, towards the end of the raid and in the last boss encounter, I ended up switching to the Extremophile 011. Here's the roll I have on that. Glass half full, perfect balance, and extended mag so it goes from 37 to 45. Not bad. Not bad of an increase right there. This actually ended up doing better for me because there's a ton of shanks that come out at the end, and you just have to be able to do a bunch of ad control. Ad control is very important after the boss damage phase. So for me, my primary, being an auto rifle, ended up being better in the last encounter than the Keystone high impact scout rifle, in my experience right there. And then I saved Devil's Dawn for boss damage. And then I was using Galahorn a lot more consistently. So the first encounter, I was using Baron's Ambition, and then the second encounter, I ended up switching to Galahorn because of being able to just need to take down a major every now and then. So a major captain would come out, got a nuke him, 2 shots of Galahorn brought him down to almost nothing, and then finished him off with the Keystone in those situations. Towards the end of the raid, I was definitely using Devil's Dawn and Galahorn, basically rotating between those two for the boss damage after the Scorch cannons were completely empty. That seemed to be the best amount of DPS that I was doing for my particular loadout. The machine guns don't seem to have too much of a place right now. I could be completely wrong. So, because again, it's only been out for about a day, and information is being revealed, the best techniques and so on and so forth. I'm just talking about my personal experience in there. The end definitely benefited from an auto rifle and high impact sniper rifle. If you don't have Galahorn, which you should, because it's easy to get. Well, it's not easy, but it's achievable. There's a direct path. Black Spindle can definitely work. I know Briar was using Black Spindle, and he said it was putting out a lot of work because towards the last phase of the third phase of the damage phases that are in the boss encounter, he was able to unload all of his Black Spindle on that, and it does a lot of damage, a lot of DPS. So that's definitely something to consider. So if you are going to go with the Black Spindle route, I'm actually not sure if a machine gun or rocket would be better. I need to test it out personally, so I'm admitting I'm ignorant in this area. So I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments if you guys think that Black Spindle is actually better for DPS, and then maybe a legendary rocket launcher or a machine gun in those particular instances. So let's talk about subclasses. The dominant theme is running around in action and then doing DPS. So things like tether are extremely important. The more damage you can put out in a damage phase, it's going to be better. If you can stagger tethers, if you have multiple hunters, being able to stagger those tethers is actually going to be very effective. Obviously, black hole, you need that. Light of the pack if you're going to tether those enemies, and also vanish and smoke so you can get out of sticky situations. These are all very good choices to use. The other option for a hunter is gunslinger, because again, there's times where a major comes out and you got to nuke that major as fast as possible. This actually ended up working out on my second run, where I was using gunslinger to take down the Scorch captains, or my particular Scorch captain, and then saving Devil's Dawn and Gallahorn for boss damage. So Extremophile, Ad Control, Devil's Dawn, and Gallahorn boss damage, and then my super for the Scorch captains that would come out at the very end, or the final encounter. That seemed to be very effective. Briar was also using Titan Smash to be able to take care of some of those Scorch captains. That was effective. When I was on my Warlock, I was using self-res, so I could obviously self-res if I got caught, but then also pop my pop Radiance and throw grenades to light the boss on fire during DPS phase, in order to create more damage. Because again, when you light targets on fire now with, I think it's Viking Funeral, I could be wrong. So when you light enemies on fire, they take extra damage as a Warlock, Sunsinger. So that's also helping with the DPS overall for the boss. So being able to create as much damage as possible for the DPS rounds was the focus of the supers, honestly. A Titan Bubble also with Weapons of Light is very effective as well. It just takes a lot more coordination for your team to be able to do the right type of DPS for the final boss. Overall, it seems like Tethers, Sunsinger, and Titan Bubble were probably the most effective team raid supers that you can use, because again, you're going for DPS. DPS from Night Stalker because of the tether, grenades that light enemies on fire with Sunsinger, and then Weapons of Light or Blessing Bubble to get out of sticky situations with the Titan. Those, in my opinion, seem to be the best subclasses right now to be able to jump into this raid and get work done. I'm not saying that you can't use other subclasses. Obviously not. Like, you can definitely use other subclasses and be effective, but you want the most DPS possible. You might be thinking, what about Melting Point? Melting Point's a little bit difficult because you have to be next to the boss and punch him. So for the final boss, he's teleporting everywhere. It's very situational. You kind of want more consistency. And again, I want to point out, this is just my opinion and what I've experienced over going in the raid day one and having 2 completions done with 2 different classes. It's what we experienced as level 70 or 370s roughly. We started out with 3 people under 370 and 3 people above 370. And then we ended up with 1 person under 370 and the rest were above 370 doing the final encounter. And we were experiencing some DPS issues. So again, DPS is key. I think once we're over 385 or at 385, we can probably focus less on DPS enhancing supers and more on just overall play styles that are fun in general to run around the raid. This is just my opinions and experience on the raid so far. Things are going to change, discoveries are going to be made, and the best possible methods for destroying the boss are going to be discovered. But that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate the support. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Sub to the channel if you want more content. And follow me on twitter.com/Teft to know when I go live on twitch.tv/TeftyTeft, because I always tweet out when I'm live. And I'll see you guys next time for another video. Deuces.